I... I think I'm a little tired, he said, his voice barely a whisper. He cleared his throat, forcing strength into it. Thank you for the party. He didn't look at anyone as he walked away. He didn't see the flicker of concern in Liam's eyes or the way Mark's smile finally faltered. He just walked, one foot in front of the other, down the flagstone path, past the main house he'd built, and into the small, silent sanctuary of the guest house. He closed the door behind him and leaned against it, the solid wood a feeble barrier against the crushing weight of what had just happened. The tremors returned, racking his whole body. He slid down the door to the floor, his face in his hands. There were no tears, not yet. Just a vast, howling emptiness. The words echoed in his mind. Eviction notice. Trade the tool belt for a bingo card. People your own age. He sat there until the last sliver of sunlight vanished from the window and the room was plunged into darkness. The next morning, Arthur woke up on the floor, his back stiff and his heart heavy. The humiliation of the night before had crystallized into a cold, hard knot in his stomach. It wasn't just the cruel joke. It was the culmination of years of small slights. The way his suggestions about the house were dismissed with a, "We've got it, Dad." The way Sarah would talk about his little projects with condescension. The way Mark had never, not once in all these years, had asked to see the original property deeds or paperwork. They had assumed. They had taken him for granted. He made a pot of strong coffee and sat at his small kitchen table. On the wall opposite him hung his old, worn leather tool belt, each scar and stain a memory. Next to it was a framed photo of him and Clara, standing in front of the framed-out skeleton of the main house, young and full of hope. "What would you do, Clara?" he whispered to the empty room. He knew what she would do. She would have given Mark a piece of her mind right there at the party. She was the fire to his steady ember. But she was gone, and he was here, alone. An idea, faint and fragile, began to form. A nagging memory from decades ago, a conversation with his own father, a stubborn, proud man who distrusted banks and lawyers. "Always know what you own, son," the old man had said, tapping a thick, yellowing envelope. "Don't let nobody tell you what's yours." Arthur stood up, his joints protesting. He went to his bedroom closet and pulled down a heavy metal lockbox from the top shelf. He hadn't opened it in years. Inside, amid old photos of Clara, his army discharge papers, and Mark's childhood drawings, was a thick folder labeled Property. His hands were steady now as he pulled out the documents. There was the original deed for the land, a full 2 acres purchased by him and Clara in 1975. There were the building permits, the architectural plans he'd drawn himself, and then he found what he was looking for. The paperwork from when Mark and Sarah moved in. There was a rental agreement for the guest house, sure enough, scribbled and signed. But there was no formal deed of sale for the main house, no transfer of the land title. He had never legally given them the property. In his mind, it was his son's inheritance, a future gift. But in the cold, hard eyes of the law, it was still his, all of it. And then he saw it, the clincher, a single typed paragraph in the original land deed, a clause his father had insisted upon, about the land remaining a single, undivided parcel unless formally subdivided with county approval that had never been sought because it had never occurred to any of them that it would be necessary.
Mark and Sarah didn't just own a house on his land. They were, technically, long-term tenants. The shock of the revelation was like a bolt of electricity. The numbness from the night before vanished, replaced by a surge of clarity and purpose. The humiliation was still there, a raw wound, but now it was joined by something else, a profound sense of power. He spent the day in a fugue state of research. He drove to the county recorder's office, an old man in worn-out jeans amidst the lawyers and realtors. He requested the files for his property. The clerk, a young woman with kind eyes, helped him navigate the microfiche records. It was all there, confirming what he had discovered. The land was still in his name, Arthur James Milligan, sole owner. He didn't feel triumphant. He felt a deep, weary sadness. But beneath the sadness was a resolve as hard as steel. The next stop was a law firm, one that had a reputation for being relentless. He didn't want a friendly family mediator. He wanted a pit bull. The firm of Henderson and Crow fit the bill. He met with a sharp, no-nonsense lawyer in her 40s named Amanda Crow. She laid the documents out on her polished mahogany desk and told her the story, his voice flat and emotionless. He told her about building the house, about moving into the guest house, about the years of unpaid labor and financial help, about the slow erosion of his dignity, and finally, about the birthday party and the eviction notice. Amanda Crow listened without interruption, her eyes scanning the documents. When she finished, she leaned back in her chair. "Mr. Milligan," she said, her voice calm and precise, "this is one of the clearest cases of detrimental reliance and unjust enrichment I've seen. They have been living in that house, making use of the land, and by your account, benefiting from your financial support under the assumption of future ownership. However, the legal title has never left your name, and this clause," she tapped the deed, "makes their position exceptionally precarious." "What can I do?" Arthur asked. "You have several options," she said. "You can formally gift them the property, which I do not recommend. You can force a sale and split the proceeds, which is messy. Or, given the circumstances of emotional distress and this theatrical humiliation, we can take a more assertive stance." She outlined a plan. It was brutal, beautiful, and exactly what the cold, hard part of his heart demanded. "Let's do it," Arthur said. 2 weeks passed. Life on the properties settled into a tense, unspoken truce. Arthur avoided the main house. Mark had called once, leaving a breezy voicemail. "Hey, Dad, just checking in. Hope you're not still sore about the joke. We were just kidding around. Talk soon." Arthur didn't return the call. He spent his days in his workshop, but he wasn't building anything. He was organizing, sorting, packing. He was preparing.